Hey, y'all. Guess what today's show's about? It's about baby showers. I want to share with y'all today some recipes that I made for Brooke's shower, my daughter-in-law. I'm gonna be making a mini lemon pork sandwich, and I'm gonna smother it with a tarragon lemon mayonnaise. And I'm gonna be making grits toast with creamy mushrooms. And then I gotta serve something sweet, right? And I made some wonderful little chocolate raspberry cookies with a raspberry glaze. And I chose to make a mixed berry Bellini that was so good. So y'all join me in the kitchen because we got some cooking to do. I'm so glad y'all have joined me in the house because I want to share some recipes that I served when Kari and I threw Brooke's baby shower. And you know, a party is not complete without some little mini sandwiches. They just go with whatever the occasion is. Well, I'm going to start by marinating a pork tenderloin. I'm going to slip it in my plastic bag. I'm going to pour over a half a cup of oil. Now I'm going to pour over 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Now this will help tenderize the meat. A half a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a couple of cloves of fresh garlic that have been minced, and then about 1/8 of a teaspoon of red pepper, ground red pepper. You know, I've never served this that people just didn't love these little sandwiches. We're just big on sandwiches at parties that we throw down south. Okay. Now we've got all those ingredients mixed up nicely. Now we're gonna let this marinate in the fridge for about 4 hours. And I've got one here in the fridge that's been in there about 4 or 5 hours. So I'm gonna bring it out, give it another roll in that marinade, and then I'm gonna put it in the oven at 400 degrees, preheated, and I'm gonna roast it off for about 35 or 40 minutes, or until the juices run clear. It drank up those ingredients nicely. Okay, so in the oven. All right, now while that's cooking, let's come down here and I'll show you the kind of dressing that I put on these sandwiches, which is really good. I'm gonna start with a cup of mayonnaise, a clove of chopped minced garlic, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of fresh chopped tarragon. And about a tablespoon of lemon juice. So I'm gonna just let that juice go through my fingers, and I'm gonna catch those seeds with my hands so they won't go in our dressing. And we're gonna just mix this up, put it in the fridge, and let those flavors marinate together until I'm ready to put our sandwiches together. Let's talk about breads. You've got several different choices in your little mini sandwiches. You could just use a regular white bread and take a cookie cutter or a glass and cut them into round circles. You could use a nice frozen yeast roll that you can buy from the freezer department at the grocery store. You could make your own biscuits. You could make your own rolls. It's just countless breads out there that you can make these on. Now today, I'm gonna be using a little brown and serve roll that we've eaten down south for 100 years, and we always love them. And of course, I'll pop these in the oven at the last minute, brown them off, get them hot, and I'll show you all that when we come back. And then I'm gonna be sharing a recipe with y'all for grits toast with creamy mushrooms. Sounds good, doesn't it? Y'all join me back here in the kitchen in 2 minutes, because we're gonna show you how to put together an easy baby shower. All right, so our pork tenderloin is done. We had it in the oven at 400 degrees for 40 minutes. Look how good that looks. Now this is the tenderloin of pork. It's like eating filet mignon. And now, like I told you before break, I'm just using a little brown and serve roll, but there's so many choices out there for you to use. And don't hesitate to use your favorite bread. You can even use a sliced bread. Now I'm gonna take our tarragon mayonnaise, and I'm gonna slather this roll good with that, and then I'm just gonna top it with a little tenderloin. Let's see what that tastes like. Mmm. Mmm. The tarragon and the lemon juice in that mayonnaise is fabulous with that piece of pork. So this won't take long to put together at all. It's almost maintenance free. All right, now let's move on down here, because this appetizer is grits toast with creamy mushrooms. And I've got 3 14-ounce cans of chicken broth boiling. You know, down here in Georgia, grits are one of our favorite foods. We use them for breakfast, lunch, dinner, appetizers. And this next recipe that I'm fixing to share with you is a combination of 2 different recipes. So I'm gonna start by making our grits toast. Our chicken broth is boiling, and I've got 1 1/3 cup of quick cooking grits. And don't forget the salt. You got to put in some salt, because if you don't salt your grits from the very beginning, you will almost never get them salty. And as y'all know, grits are nothing but a coarsely ground grain. So this is not gonna take long now for these grits to thicken up. Now it's very, very important when you start your grits to cooking that you stir them and stir them and stir them, you know, for a minute or 2. Because if they lump up on you, it's gonna be very, very hard to get those lumps out. Now this is starting to boil good, so I'm gonna turn that down, and I'm just gonna give it a stir. Now, the other half of this recipe is called a creamy mushroom canapé. So we're gonna start with 2 cans of French fried onion rings. And to that, we're gonna add 2 cups of mayonnaise. And there again, you know, always use a good premium mayonnaise. And a 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And then I'm gonna take 2 small cans of sliced button mushrooms. And I'm gonna drain those. And you wanna drain those mushrooms good, because you don't wanna make your topping watery. All right, so in go our mushrooms. Let's come over here and give our grits a quick stir, just so they don't get clumpy. Couple of more minutes and we're gonna have grits. Okay. I'm gonna fold all of these ingredients together. And those, ooh, that Parmesan cheese smells so strong. And you can hear the crunch of those onions. Whoa! All right, now our grits are ready. They're thick enough. I'm gonna add 1 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Just gonna stir that in. And now I'm gonna pour them into our prepared pan. It's been greased with butter, because I want these to come out perfectly easy after they're chilled. Okay, so into the fridge these go for a couple of hours. All right, now since I don't have a couple of hours, I've got a pan up here ready for us that's chilled. Now I'm just gonna turn that out onto our cutting board, and I'm gonna be using a 1.5-inch biscuit cutter. So we're just gonna dig into these with our biscuit cutter, place them on our cookie sheet. You can make these any size you'd like to, but you know, happen to think that this little size is just perfect for just a bite. Look how perfectly pretty those are. Now, while we're on break, I'm gonna put these into a 400-degree preheated oven. I'm gonna let them bake for 15 minutes. And then I'm gonna take them out, turn them, and then bake them for another 15 minutes. And then I've just got the perfect sweet thing for the sweet thing that's gonna be born, a chocolate raspberry cookie. So I'll see you back in 2 minutes, back here in the kitchen. Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm just finishing the canapes. You know, I told you we were gonna bake our grit cakes, and then we were gonna put our topping on them, and that's what I'm doing right now. Now we're gonna put these in the broiler for 5 minutes. You know, anytime you ever use the broiler, you have to watch it. You can't take your eyes off of it. So don't get too far away from them. Okay, so there they go. Well, I promised y'all a wonderful recipe for a chocolate cookie, didn't I? Well, let's get started on it. I've got 2 sticks of butter that are room temperature here in my bowl. I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. I'm gonna add 1 cup of granulated sugar, and let's just beat that until it's nice and creamy. All right, so this is nice and creamy. I've got 4 eggs. All right, I'm gonna add 1 egg at the time. Turn that up a little bit and just cream. Okie doke. Now I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. Now I'm gonna measure out our flour. We're gonna need 2.5 cups of flour for our cookie. There we go, that's 1. 2. And 1/2. And I'm gonna add 1/3 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now I'm just gonna incorporate these dry ingredients, and I'm gonna beat them in to our creamed butter. Okay. And a little bit more. I'm gonna do this in like 3 different additions. Rather than dumping it in all at one time and flour flying all up in my face, I'm gonna slowly add this. And the last of our dry ingredients. Okay, I got our beaters pretty clean. I've got 1 more ingredient to add to them, and that's just something that us girls can't resist. This is chocolate, y'all, that's filled with a raspberry cream. Now I'm using 1 6-ounce bag, and I'm gonna fold those in to our batter. I mean, chocolate and raspberries, they just go together. So this batter is wonderful. All you gotta do is put it on a greased baking sheet, a teaspoonful, put it in a preheated 350-degree oven and cook it for 12 to 14 minutes. And then you wanna set them out on a rack and let them cool. And I've got some down here cooling for us. So in my bowl, I've got 1.5 cups of confectioner's sugar, and I'm gonna pour in 2 tablespoons of milk. And I'm sure you've guessed by now, we're gonna make a glaze for this wonderful chocolate raspberry cookie. Now all we're gonna do at this point is add 1 tablespoon of a seedless raspberry preserve. Now this will make it nice and smooth. So we're just gonna keep those flavors going from the inside of that cookie to the outside. And you can see it, that glaze looked awfully thick until I added the raspberry preserves, and you can see how they thinned it out, that it's just right to just squirt on top of that cookie. All right, now I'm gonna transfer this to a plastic baggie. Just gonna pour it in. Seal it up. Snip that end. And you don't wanna make too big of a hole. And then we're just gonna squeeze this glaze onto our cookies. Now you can glaze them any way you want to. You can put stripes going either way, or you can solid glaze it. Either way, you can't mess up. And I'm gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm gonna taste. Okay, we've made several dishes now for our baby shower, but we've got to have a beverage. So I'm making a mixed berry Bellini. Now I'm using 1 11-ounce bag of just frozen mixed berries that I've thawed, and I'm gonna put those into our blender. Aren't those pretty? The raspberries and blackberries. Now I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of sugar, and I'm just gonna puree these in the blender until they're just nice and smooth. Now, if you would like to, you can strain it. But you know, I really don't mind the texture in there. So I'm just gonna pour that over our ice. And then I'm gonna add 1 bottle of a sparkling wine. And you can see I hadn't splurged too much. This was one of those screw tops. This one doesn't have a cork. And you don't need to spend a lot because there's so many flavors going on. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of rinse out our blender a little by pouring some of the champagne in there. And now I'm gonna add the rest of our champagne. And this is gonna be a wonderful, refreshing beverage for the girls. So I've got the ice in there. It's gonna get it cold, and all they have to do is come up with a wine glass and help themselves. Now, y'all are probably saying, but Paula, you're having a baby shower and you're serving alcohol. Well, you know the mother can't have alcohol, and you're exactly right. But you can substitute apple cider, a sparkling apple cider, or grape juice and sparkling water. It'll be just as good. I've had such a good time with y'all today, bringing back recipes and thinking about the day that Kari and I threw Brooke, my daughter-in-law, her shower. I think you're gonna love these recipes. The little mini lemon tenderloin sandwiches are out of this world, And of course, the grits toast with the creamy mushrooms. I've been waiting for the whole show to taste those little puppies, and I'm gonna do that in just a minute. And of course, you gotta have something sweet. And the chocolate raspberry cookie with the raspberry glaze is just delicious. And of course, the mixed berry bellinis, you know, it goes perfect anywhere, whether you choose to do it with alcohol or non-alcoholic. It's just the perfect drink for the girls. Well, it's time for me to say goodbye, but I'm not saying goodbye until I eat one of these grits toast with that creamy mushroom on top of it. Mmm. Mmm. I knew I loved grits toast, and I knew I loved the creamy mushroom, and they're just perfect together. So I hope these recipes will come in handy when you're throwing a shower or having friends over. And until next time, you know I always send you love and best dishes from my kitchen to yours.